Most people imagine intelligence is about knowing more, reading more, or speaking with sharper words. But intelligence is often undone, not by what someone lacks, but by what they tolerate. Think about it. A brilliant mind can still waste years chasing approval, feeding envy, or getting trapped in arguments that lead nowhere. A sharp thinker can still dull his edge by pouring energy into things outside his control. The truth is, intelligence isn't only built by what you choose to learn, it is also shaped by what you deliberately refuse to do. So the real question is this: what are the hidden traps that truly intelligent people avoid at all costs? The Stoics believed that wisdom was not simply about adding more knowledge, but about subtracting the unnecessary. It was a discipline of clearing away the noise, of refusing to let life be cluttered with trivial pursuits or destructive habits. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus all return to the same truth. The mind is strongest when it is not pulled in every direction, when it is anchored in what truly matters. This video is not about clever tricks or shortcuts to appear intelligent. It is about the deeper practice of living wisely. We will explore 10 things that intelligent people consciously avoid, each one drawn from the lessons of Stoicism and echoed in everyday life. Some of these may sound simple, even obvious, yet they are the very mistakes that keep most people trapped in frustration, envy, and wasted effort. By understanding what to avoid, you clear the path for strength, clarity, and peace of mind. Let us begin with the first. Intelligent people understand the futility of wasting time on what lies outside their control. This is the foundation of Stoic teaching. Epictetus divided life into 2 categories: what is within our power and what is not. He taught that misery comes when we confuse the two. Think about the hours people lose in frustration over traffic, bad weather, or the behavior of others. These are things that no amount of worry or cleverness can change, yet many surrender their peace of mind to them daily. The Stoics remind us that energy is precious. To pour it into the uncontrollable is to drain it away from where it could actually matter. An intelligent person does not rage at the rain. They carry an umbrella. They do not fume at the lateness of a train. They use the time to read or reflect. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, faced wars, plagues, and betrayals. Yet in his private reflections, he reminded himself again and again, "You cannot control the actions of others, only your own response." When you stop wrestling with the inevitable, you free your strength to act where it counts. Intelligent people know this is not weakness but wisdom. They do not resign themselves to fate, but they refuse to waste their lives cursing it. The lesson is simple. Control what you can, release what you cannot. This is the first step in guarding your mind from ruin. Intelligent people avoid the trap of endless distractions. The modern world thrives on scattering attention, pulling us from one notification to the next, one piece of shallow entertainment to another. Yet, focus is the most valuable currency of the mind. The Stoics warned against living in a state of constant distraction long before smartphones existed. To them, the greatest danger was to be so preoccupied with trivialities that you neglect the duties and opportunities of the present moment. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal during the chaos of ruling an empire. Surrounded by war, political intrigue, and constant demands, he carved out time to write private reflections, reminding himself of what was essential. His example shows that if he, with all the burdens of an emperor, could preserve moments of clarity, then so can we. Intelligent people recognize that distractions rob them twice, first of their time and second of their ability to think deeply. To avoid distraction is not to reject all pleasure or activity, but to be deliberate about where attention flows. Reading something meaningful, sitting quietly to reflect, or engaging in purposeful work strengthens the mind. Scrolling endlessly or being consumed by noise weakens it. The mind, left unguarded, is like a city with open gates. Intelligent people build walls around their attention and open the gates only for what is worthy. This discipline of focus sets them apart from the crowd. Intelligent people avoid arguments with fools. The Stoics understood that not every battle is worth fighting, and not every voice deserves your energy. Seneca reminded us that anger often grows when we feed it with attention, and the best remedy is to pause, to step back, and to refuse to let another person's ignorance rule our emotions. Think about how often debates spiral, not into clarity, but into louder noise. Online comments, heated exchanges with strangers, or even petty quarrels at home often leave us drained, but not wiser. Engaging with someone who has no interest in truth, only in winning, is like wrestling with mud. You may get dirty, and the crowd may laugh, but nothing is gained. Intelligent people know that silence or withdrawal can be more powerful than a clever rebuttal. They recognize the difference between a discussion with someone who seeks understanding and an argument with someone who seeks only to provoke. Marcus Aurelius advised himself not to be surprised when he encountered the stubborn, the dishonest, or the unreasonable. He knew they would appear as surely as the sun rises, and he resolved not to be disturbed by it. Intelligent people follow the same path. They choose their battles carefully, preserving their strength for places where their words or actions can make a difference. To avoid arguments with fools is not cowardice, it is the mark of wisdom. It is the recognition that peace of mind is too valuable to throw away in the heat of someone else's folly. Intelligent people avoid the need for approval. One of the clearest teachings of the Stoics is that a good life is measured by virtue, not by applause. The crowd may cheer one day and curse the next, but the opinions of others shift like the wind. To build your sense of worth on such unstable ground is to live in constant anxiety. Intelligent people understand this, and they guard themselves against the temptation to live for recognition. Cato the Younger, a Roman statesman admired by the Stoics, stood firm in the Senate even when his views were unpopular. He refused to bend his principles simply to win favor, and though this made him enemies, it also made him free. He did not seek approval, he sought integrity. This is what makes his name remembered centuries later, while countless others who chased applause are forgotten. In modern life, the same principle holds. Social media encourages us to measure ourselves by likes, comments, or followers, but intelligent people know these numbers are hollow. They do not place their happiness in the hands of others. Instead, they look inward, asking whether their actions align with reason, justice, and self-respect. Approval may come or it may not, but it is irrelevant to the one who stands on solid ground. To avoid the need for approval is to claim back your freedom, for no one can take away the calm of a mind that is content with living rightly. Intelligent people avoid envy and comparison. Nothing corrodes the mind faster than measuring your life against another's. The Stoics taught that each person has their own path, and to judge yourself by someone else's fortune is to ignore your own nature. Marcus Aurelius warned that being disturbed by another's success is foolish, for their achievements do not diminish your ability to live with virtue and purpose. In our world, comparison is easier than ever. A few seconds online can make you feel as though everyone else is richer, happier, or more accomplished. But what you see is only the surface, never the full story. Intelligent people recognize the trap. They understand that envy blinds you to your own blessings and poisons the mind with dissatisfaction. Instead of chasing someone else's life, They measure themselves against their own principles. Did I act with courage today? Did I resist what is base and choose what is right? This inward standard cannot be stolen or distorted by others. Envy demands you run a race that never ends. Wisdom teaches you to step off the track entirely. The peace of mind that comes from focusing inward is greater than any fleeting triumph over a rival. Intelligent people avoid envy not because they lack ambition, but because they refuse to waste life on comparisons that lead nowhere. Intelligent people avoid complaining. The Stoics saw complaining as one of the weakest responses to life's challenges because it changes nothing while feeding bitterness. Seneca wrote that it is not what happens to us that defines us, but how we respond. To complain is to replay the wound again and again, while doing nothing to heal it. Intelligent people know this, and they refuse to waste their breath on words that solve nothing. Life in ancient Rome was harsh: slavery, poverty, disease, and constant danger. Yet the Stoics praised those who endured with quiet strength more than those who cried out in resentment. Complaining may earn sympathy, but it does not earn progress. Intelligent people conserve their words for seeking solutions, for encouraging others, or for reminding themselves of what must be done. In daily life, we all face delays, disappointments, and unfairness. A plane is late, a friend breaks a promise, or an unexpected obstacle appears. Complaining tempts us because it gives a momentary release, but it also saps energy and spreads negativity to everyone around us. Intelligent people recognize that silence and action are stronger. They accept reality without protest, and then they move to improve what they can. To live without complaining is not to ignore hardship. It is to face it with dignity. Intelligent people avoid being ruled by excessive emotions. The Stoics never denied that emotions are part of being human, but they warned against letting them cloud judgment or dictate action. Anger, fear, pride, or even joy in excess can distort reason and lead to choices we later regret. The wise person does not seek to erase emotion but to guide it, as a rider steers a horse rather than being dragged behind it. History is filled with examples of leaders who lost everything because of unrestrained emotions. A general who rages at an insult may rush into battle unprepared. A ruler blinded by pride may ignore wise counsel. In both cases, intelligence is wasted because emotion has taken the throne where reason should sit. Intelligent people understand this danger. They take a breath before speaking in anger. They pause before acting in fear. And they remember that no temporary feeling should have the power to decide the course of their life. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily to meet each event with calm, no matter how unjust or difficult it seemed. He wrote that a man becomes invincible when he refuses to be disturbed by anything beyond his control. Intelligent people follow this path. They feel emotions deeply, but they do not serve them blindly. Instead, they use reason to steady the soul, so that their choices reflect clarity rather than impulse. To master emotion is not to live without passion, but to ensure passion serves wisdom, not the other way around. Intelligent people avoid overindulgence. The Stoics believed that true freedom comes from mastering your desires, not from feeding them endlessly. Pleasure is not evil, but when pursued without limit, it becomes a chain. Food, drink, luxury, and comfort may seem harmless, yet too much of them dulls the mind and weakens the will. Intelligent people understand that indulgence is never satisfied. It only grows hungrier. Musonius Rufus, a Stoic teacher, often spoke about moderation. He believed that the strongest person is the one who can enjoy something without becoming dependent on it. To eat simply, to drink in moderation, and to resist the lure of excess was, in his view, not a loss but a gain. It sharpened the body and the spirit. By contrast, those who give in to every appetite soon become servants to them, always needing more, yet never finding peace. In modern times, the temptation of overindulgence surrounds us constantly. Endless entertainment, fast food, luxury goods, all designed to keep us wanting. Intelligent people step back from this cycle. They enjoy what is necessary. They allow themselves moments of pleasure, but they stop short of slavery. They understand that strength lies in self-control, and that a person who cannot say no is not free. To avoid overindulgence is not to reject joy, but to choose the deeper joy of living without chains. Intelligent people avoid gossip and idle talk. Words are powerful, and once spoken, they cannot be recalled. The Stoics urged caution with speech, teaching that silence is often wiser than chatter. Seneca warned that idle talk weakens the character, for it wastes time and often spreads harm without purpose. Gossip especially is a poison. It may feel light, but it corrodes trust, distorts truth, and distracts from matters that truly deserve attention. Consider how easily conversations slip into speaking of others instead of ideas. It is simpler to discuss someone's failures or private life than to reflect on our own actions. But intelligent people resist this. They know that a tongue left unguarded betrays the mind that wields it. Gossip reveals more about the speaker's weakness than the subject's flaws. Intelligent people would rather hold silence than use their words carelessly. The Stoics held that speech should serve truth, encouragement, or clarity. Every other use is waste. In our world, where rumors and idle chatter travel faster than ever, the temptation to join in is strong. But intelligent people set themselves apart. They value their words, using them only to build, not to tear down. They avoid gossip not because they are indifferent, but because they understand that dignity is preserved by restraint. Silence may not draw attention, but it leaves the conscience clean. Intelligent people avoid living in the past or the future at the expense of the present. Marcus Aurelius wrote that each person is given only one moment to live, the one happening now. Yet many people spend their lives trapped either in regret for what cannot be changed or in anxious anticipation of what has not yet come. The result is a restless mind that never experiences peace. The Stoics urged us to confine ourselves to the present, to do the task at hand with full attention. The soldier who worries about tomorrow's battle loses the clarity needed to prepare today. The merchant who mourns yesterday's losses misses the opportunities in front of him. Intelligent people recognize that the only ground we truly stand on is the present moment, and to abandon it is to lose the only thing that is real. This does not mean we ignore lessons of the past or fail to plan for the future. Both have their place. But intelligent people avoid living in those times as though they were more important than today. Regret becomes a teacher, not a prison. Plans become guides, not chains. By returning again and again to the present, they act with calm and strength. Life is short, and intelligent people will not waste it in places where they no longer or not yet exist. Intelligent people avoid ignoring mortality. The Stoics often repeated the phrase, memento mori, remember, you must die. Far from being grim, this reflection gave life clarity and urgency. When you accept that time is finite, you stop wasting it on trivialities. You see that each day could be your last, and so you choose carefully how to spend it. Many live as if life will stretch on forever. They postpone what matters, waiting for a better time that never arrives. They chase wealth, status, or comfort while neglecting the deeper work of living well. Intelligent people refuse this illusion. They keep mortality in mind, not to despair, but to sharpen their focus. A man who knows he may not see tomorrow speaks his words more honestly. acts with greater courage, and holds his loved ones closer. Seneca wrote that it is not that we have too little time, but that we waste much of it. By remembering death, intelligent people free themselves from waste. They do not cling desperately to life, but they honor it by using their hours well. To avoid ignoring mortality is to walk with purpose, to let the shadow of death remind you of the light you still hold. It is a discipline that transforms every ordinary moment into something precious. Intelligent people avoid anger at the world's injustice. The Stoics did not deny that life is unfair. They expected it. Marcus Aurelius wrote that corruption, selfishness, and cruelty are part of human nature, and to be shocked by them is to misunderstand life itself. To rage endlessly at injustice is to hand your peace over to what you cannot control. Intelligent people choose a different path. This does not mean they approve of wrong or remain passive in the face of evil. Rather, they approach it with calm, refusing to let bitterness poison their spirit. A man consumed by anger at corruption becomes blind, reacting without strategy. A woman who lets resentment guide her choices may act with fury, but little effect. Intelligent people know that justice is best served with a steady mind. Marcus Aurelius endured betrayal and deceit within his own court, yet his writings reveal not hatred but patience. He reminded himself that people act according to their understanding, and often that understanding is flawed. Intelligent people see this too. They focus not on lamenting the nature of the world, but on deciding what is within their power to correct. By accepting that injustice will always exist, they conserve their strength for wise action where it matters. To avoid anger at the world's unfairness is to gain the clarity needed to fight it with reason rather than rage. Intelligent people avoid betraying their principles. For the Stoics, virtue was the only true good, and to compromise it for gain was to lose the very essence of freedom. A person who abandons their values for comfort, wealth, or approval becomes a servant to those things. Intelligent people understand that external rewards are fleeting, but integrity endures. Cato the Younger embodied this lesson. He resisted Julius Caesar's rise to power, refusing to bend even when it meant isolation, loss, and eventually death. To Cato, virtue was worth more than survival itself. His name is remembered precisely because he would not trade principle for advantage. Intelligent people live by the same conviction in smaller, everyday ways. They refuse to lie when truth is inconvenient. They resist shortcuts that betray honesty. They uphold fairness even when no one is watching. Modern life offers constant temptations to bend, compromise your values for profit, betray your word for convenience, follow the crowd for safety. Intelligent people reject these offers, not out of stubbornness, but out of clarity. They know that each betrayal weakens the soul, while each act of integrity strengthens it. To remain true to principle, even in small matters, is to live with a freedom no external force can take away. Intelligent people avoid betraying their principles because they see that a life without integrity is not a life of intelligence but of enslavement. Intelligence is often praised as the ability to learn quickly, to solve problems, or to see patterns others miss. But the Stoics reveal a deeper truth. Wisdom is not only in what you know, but in what you choose to avoid. The mind is easily scattered, poisoned, or enslaved by habits that appear harmless but quietly destroy peace and clarity. That is why the wisest among us deliberately step around these traps. They do not waste energy on the uncontrollable. They guard their attention against distractions. They refuse to argue with fools or chase after the approval of the crowd. They avoid envy, complaining, and the excesses of appetite. They restrain their speech, stay anchored in the present, and never forget the brevity of life. They accept the world's injustice without surrendering to bitterness. And above all, They hold fast to their principles, no matter the cost. The lesson is clear. What you avoid is just as important as what you pursue. To live wisely is not to chase everything, but to subtract what weakens the soul. When you strip away envy, anger, distraction, and fear, what remains is a life of strength, clarity, and freedom. The Stoics remind us that the path to intelligence is not addition, but discipline, the discipline of refusing what does not serve virtue. If Stoic wisdom brings value to your life, subscribe so you don't miss the next lesson.